Hi everybody, John Honig from the Scenic Factory. I'm going to do a simple post-war diorama. I get a lot of questions on how I do my bases before I get to the actual groundwork. A lot of times I show things once I'm past this stage. So I figured I'd do a simple diorama and I just show it right from the start. Simple. So for this particular diorama, it's going to be a post-war kind of fun because you can make it up as you go, but it's going to be basically a field with a wood line. With basically a post-war JS7 tank looking through the wood line. A couple little twists to it in the end, which you'll see. So basically the base, this particular one is standard wood. I do other ones now also, but standard strip wood, plywood bottom, just some molding on the base. This isn't going to have any contours on it because it's more of a tutorial, so I'm going to keep it simple and flat. I filled all the nail holes, primed it. I'm not going to paint it till the end because I'm going to put a little effect on the base, and no matter how good the adhesion, if I tape over it while I build this whole diorama, I'm sure something will go wrong and I'll pull it off. So on this one I'm going to paint it in the end. I'll just show you real quick another way I do bases. I'll get more into this in a different one, but this is basically all foam and laminate. Basically laminate from a countertop. And the inside is foam. This whole thing weighs about 1.5 pounds maybe. Super, super light. A little bit more difficult to do. This hasn't been cleaned up or painted yet, but it makes for a really nice base. I'll get more into that in a different video though, and I just wanted to show you what that was. Alright, so basically what I do is, if this was contoured either way, I fill in with foam, lightweight foam. Then it's going to get a plaster cloth wrap, which I'll also show you. Then once that's dry, that'll take overnight. We'll put a coating of what I sculpt the mold, which I'll go over that when we put that on tomorrow. Another favorite. So this is basically how I do all my bases to get a starting point to actually do the diorama. So to fill the void, rigid foam. Don't use the white stuff. The popcorny stuff goes everywhere. This is, this is particularly Lowe's, but you can get thicker pieces. I glue gun it with my cute pink glue gun. Now instead of putting 3 full pieces here, it's going to take 3 pieces to get it up to where I want it, but I'm just going to use a couple spacers in between this one and the next one. Again, this keeps things a little bit lighter. This is just standard glue, nothing crazy, glue gun. I have to hold down for a couple seconds till it holds, because I don't want it actually to rise and then harden, because this is, the thickness of this is about 3 sheets. It's going to be under a little bit, but the sculpt mold will then fill it. Same thing. Push that on. Doesn't have to be exact total tight fit. We're going to be putting some plaster cloth over this and then sculpt the mold after that. Now what some people do, and I don't, is they might get to this point and they'll put something else over it. Joint compound, something of that nature. Highly do not recommend that. Anything that's an air dry that doesn't mix with water is going to shrink or crack on you at some point. Especially something like joint compound, that's meant to fill small holes, not to make construction projects out of it. If you put it on thick, it takes forever to dry and it will crack. What I'm going to show you is my method that's simple, proven, doesn't crack, doesn't shrink, and it gives you a great base for everything. Now we're going to use, to go over this now, to actually get the shell, is plaster cloth. I use it for literally everything. I won't do a base without it. This is what's going to actually encase my shell. Now if this was a diorama with all sorts of contours, mountains, it's great for that because it, you put it all over, it gives it a nice shell, nice and hard. I already went and cut some of this up. So for something like this, I cut into pieces about this big. If I had something with a lot of contours, I'd have a couple different trays going, and I'd have pieces half this size, smaller. Because sometimes when you get little nooks and crannies, it's a little bit harder to use the bigger pieces. But since we don't have any nooks and crannies, it's nice and simple. Little tub of water, keep some paper towels close. All you do, dip it in the water. Don't need to let it soak, just enough soak it's adhered, or not adhered, I'm sorry. Gets the plaster wet. I'm going to drape it on. Smush it into that crack a little. Now in actuality, this is about a 1/4 inch lower than I would have liked it, but I can make that up with the Sculptamold, which we will do tomorrow. This is kind of, if you were to put something right over this, it's probably going to pop off or chisel off as you're working. This gives a nice border. Again, not dripping wet, just enough to dampen it up. Make sure the plaster on it gets wet. Same stuff the doctor would be putting on if you broke your leg. Now if this had a lot of contours and this was a bigger diorama, I'll put extra on it now, but I would actually I'd be overlapping a lot of spots to give it all that extra strength and make sure it's all covered. Just a little repetition. This is a very simple, inexpensive, but foolproof way to give you a good base. Because this does adhere to the foam, and anything you put over this is going to adhere. Like I said, we'll do the Sculptamold, but this needs to dry overnight, so we're just going to get it to this stage right now. Smooth it with your fingers. Push it into my crack there a little bit. I'm going to throw an extra couple pieces on since I got them right here. Again, don't get it soaked because it actually won't absorb into the foam, so it takes longer to dry. If you get a big puddle, just dab it with a paper towel. I'll just put one more piece on here. Smooth it with your fingers. Oh. Smooth it back off. Alright, we're going to leave this to dry overnight. Then what we'll do is we'll come back tomorrow. And we're going to use a product. Again, another one of my favorites, Sculptamold. Use it on all my dioramas again. What we'll do is we'll go over this with the Sculptamold, which will give us our actual shell. That we will let that dry, and then we will start painting from there and actually making our layout. So we will see you tomorrow.